What's going on, you guys? Coming back at you with the next iteration of U6 that I was talking about in the previous week. With this, it's a little bit tougher. I was trying to do my due diligence and see if there's any other support, but we kind of been dry with U6 these last couple of sets and not enough generics to help facilitate the potential of this leader. But either way, it's still pretty strong, but it's strong with a caveat. What is that caveat you said? I was alluding to the fact that you cannot have anything other than U6 battle cards, or your battle cards has to be U6 or Vegeta cards, which is the kicker. And this came out, I want to say 2017, 2018, one of those seasons. But that was the challenge in building this deck. But when it came out, it was pretty strong. And I'll say this to the hilltops: untapped 2 leaders are a menace. It's been a while since we had an untapped 2 leader, and I don't think we are going back because for reasons like this deck. Because this deck used to put out a lot of pressure in the early game and kind of close you out in the mid game. A lot of potential, but long since forgotten. But we're gonna see if we can revive it with something I've been cooking up. Without further ado, let's get into it. The main purpose of this deck is to self-awaken as fast as possible by playing U6 cards. For each U6 card, you can take up to a life, and you awaken at 4 and untap 2. Simple premise, but on the backside it gets kind of, I don't want to say convoluted, but the layers reveal themselves. The opponents, the second auto where you can lock your opponent out, there's steps to that. You can get that off, but it requires you to tap your opponent out during the battle phase. We'll get into the cards that you can use to do that, but besides that, it has another effect where it draws besides the attack auto, and that's when one of your cards skill switches your opponent's battle card or energy to rest mode, you draw a card, and you can trigger this on your turn or your opponent's turn, which is pretty neat and will come up. So potentially between you and your opponent's turn, you can see 3 cards off your leader's backside effect. But without further ado, let's get it going. Also had the permanent, if all your opponent's energy in rest mode, you get +5, so you get stronger. So the point is leaning into its yellow affinity of tapping you out and resting. That's what I like about this deck. The main thing of the deck, even though I built it a little heavy, you want to start off with your engine cards, like with your searchers. Like in the last list, you search out your other U6 5 or less, and like basically the whole deck right here with this one. But this one in particular, she don't search them, she plays them, and plays them off the top 10. And there's a variety of Kales and Khalifas you can play, but this one is the one that brings back cards. But you can either choose between this, which can set up your fusion plays, or the main ones we like to use is either another one of these for search power, or this, but depending on how what you're facing against, whether you're going first or second, this is a cool go-to just to stop the defensive responses to peer pressure. But if they got blockers out, this is something to bring into play. Because even if you're facing the black SS4 Vegeta, you can just tap it and put in the rest. Because off that play, you're fusing, because that's what the first part of the search plus engine is doing, to fuse into brilliant pairing, which, like I said before, each time you play a U6, you get to take a life and be that much closer to flipping over. And this pairing or union Batara don't cost you any energy. The next one is just for kind of like the mid game, because this deck was and still is pretty good at closing out the game as early as turn 3, turn 4. But if not, it has tools to play the mid game very well. And going into the second part of the package, this is like a classic theme of what it used to do, which is arrival into this Champa, and then you could reduce the cost of your combo of U6 by 1. This is like the main one you have to go into and like tap it. After the combo, this comes in play over a Khalifa, which in turn, after the battle, this comes into play, and it's the tap of energy. This one is the most unique one of them all, even of the color blue, because this is like the only blue card that can negate a skill, negate a skill, and remove a card, which is very unique, even though traditionally you ran more of, but we kind of subbed that out to run its last this last support that I can remember, which is this Khalifa and Kale synergy. We use this because it can count as either name we missing, which will set up for our bigger fusion later, but when we get to that. This is kind of like the pseudo evolve game that's in like the mid game package. Segueing into our super combo, we just run in 4 Keflas because it's easy to set up to our arrival, which this is the first of our 6 or 7 arrivals I think we run it, which you need a blue yellow for. This is something we sometimes arrival into, but for the most part we just play this on our opponent's turn to tap them out, and we, as you read our leader, we get value for tapping our opponent out. Our next up is this Goku hit, attack and defense, Frame Alliance. I like to use this defensively, and on when it gets back to my turn, I can just attack twice. Doesn't have dual attack, but its active battle allows him to stand back up, which is very utility, and the fact that he's a Goku is important for our other card. We'll get into the list a little bit later, but this one helps in a lot of different matchups because there's a lot of early game 4 or less pressure at you, and you can circumvent that by arriving into him and just clearing the battle card that's attacking you in the early game. Going on to our top end of our U6 package, the Meteoric, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, which is kind of our closeout deterrent. This is the card you want to play when you want to kind of give yourself a certain another closing factor or another threat that maybe your early game couldn't close out, but this one definitely turns off their turn immediately if they can't clear this with her special ability. Another sneaky one that we use is this 8-drop from set 23. She's kind of like our pseudo barrier removal, and we can easily set it up. Then after that, we get to the little bit of utility. We run in the Maj and Vegeta. SSB godlike power because we're allowed to run these Vegetas in the deck. And running this just because if our early game somehow we don't get into and draw into it, this allows us to keep pressuring the way we want to because we want to get to 4 life, awaken, and try to push for at least, if not gain, at least 6 damage in the first 3 turns. After that, we pretty much just stunning our opponent until we can close out the game with cards like this just to keep and mitigate board. And some of our defensive packages like Power of the Super Saiyan, a pretty classic card. Sensu Beam, which lets us extend and stay alive on our opponent's turn, especially when we tap them out. Our leader gets bigger and becomes like the leader stats, and if when you add beam to that, it's really hard to push into him. Next, we're running Universe 6 Assemble. Was going to run this in my last list, but space, but it does wonders for this list where we're have a center focus on arrival more so than our last list where the meat of our deck revolves around setting this card up and getting these ladies on the field so we can just go into our meteoric between turn 3 and 6, I mean 4 and 6 more comfortably. Then we got the usual Nimbus, protects us against other aggro decks that us, then enforcements, and time magic. Others can't be too careful with the dual and triple attack. Going on to the Z deck, it's pretty generic standard for a yellow blue mesh. Alright, one interesting thing to note is the Kaioken that I'm playing. Always like other avenues to push, because sometimes playing battle cards is not the way which they can easily remove or have another unison to go into. Also, this kind of, like I said before, stuns with this auto, so this can be a good attack or defensive option. The other unique thing that I'm running in this list and not in the other one is this Goku, which has the potential to get bigger and KO rest mode. A lot of removal between our main and lead deck. Side deck is pretty interesting. Like the last list for Mill and other uh, matchups, but with this specific list, you get to trigger her Union skill, which allows you to stand back up at energy, be very valuable defensively. Then we got the hit, which transferred over from the other Kefla deck, which is kind of like Pressure Ball in battle card form. Got our T-Blow and Frost Deadly Poison for those that haven't played when this card came out. This was like another favorite card. I've just been itching to use this. Also, if I don't counterattack, I can play it off the kill, which can allows me to stun a card. This can be very important depending on the matchup. A card that's used a lot. Then we got our Realm of God, just in case we want to play more defensively, and Vegeta. Which, be playing against black or anything that produce a lot of big bodies, definitely something that's coming in off the side. Same with a Sister's Determination, which is utilized for any U6 deck, and it's kind of stronger in this deck because it's easier to run Nimbus in here without meaning versus the other one I was citing, which I can do both depending if I feel threatened, but there's few decks that really threaten you like that. But just in case you run one of those OTK decks like maybe Shadow Dragon, Oceanus, got a pretty good turn 2, turn 3. Well, most of the time you can just Nimbus out of that, or just disrupt the setup during the battle step interaction. But this has been my list. This is pretty sequence heavy, so definitely if you're taking something like this, get the reps. But that's all I gotta say for this one. Hope you enjoyed. Hope I explained stuff well enough so you can digest it. But definitely when you are building or doing a creative thing, definitely gotta get in the reps, because you could have a good idea or a good premise. It's just you have to play enough to get down to execution. Cause I see a lot of good ideas given up on too soon. But that's all I have, and I'll catch y'all on the next video.